sing it loud, lift our voices to the cloud. In your grace we always find peace and love of humankind. Beneath the stars I kneel to pray, grateful for each blessed day. In your arms my soul can rest, always giving you the best.
All right, guys. Hey, welcome to the All Things You podcast. Again, we want to thank Damien for doing all this for us. Man, he's been a big blessing. I got Brian Edwards with me today, and you'll hear me say Coach Edwards. He worked at Peel Hatchie and coached baseball for a long time. And I'm looking forward to this. And Brian's been one of my best friends for a long time, even when we don't see each other. It's weird when we don't talk or see each other. He's a lot of fun. He owns Jackknife Trailer Repair. We were just talking. We don't know how to market ourselves very well, but we ought to have sponsors and say, this episode is sponsored by Jackknife Trailer Repair. But we do have a lot of friends owned businesses that do help us and support us. And I make fun of Aubrey. They told us to do a 5K to raise money, and Damien, the first 5K, I think we lost money because we ended up paying for all the trustees and the recovery groups and all. So we don't know how to market ourselves very well. But
well, I can tell you, man, if you can let me know who you want to do, man, we can put together promos for whoever it is on sponsorships and stuff like that. That's not an issue. That's easy.
Well, I guess our problem is asking, hey, we want you to be a sponsor, but you got to give so much money.
Yeah, but now you got to give us money, see. Amen.
But, hey, Jackknife Trailer Repair, all the trailers we have and all the trailers in Mexico, man, they have really, really, really blessed us. But, Coach Edwards, we're glad to have you. How we start this is we always ask people to tell their, quote, all things you experience, their salvation experience. I know your journey with Jesus is kind of a...
Yeah, it's a hit and miss. Yeah.
So, but how did you first come, I guess, to receive Christ? And
so, of course, I've been a believer most of my life. And when I was a kid, my mom took me to church, and of course, I was sprinkled early in a Methodist church, and I was a believer.
So you understood?
I understood, yeah, but I don't know. The difference between a believer and a follower, right? I became a follower late in life. It's a weird story, but my dad was he's a man's man, right? So he wouldn't go to church a lot because he always worked, and I always kind of had that in the backside of my head is what a man looked like and what it was supposed to be like. And if I had to define one whenever I was in high school, it wouldn't be the same definition I had today. So, I guess it was after he died, and,
I won't call time because your dad was a hard man,
yeah,
hard
working dude. And,
I want you to tell, because I always thought this was such a neat testimony about the preacher that came in and talked to your dad about the Lord, because your dad was dying of cancer.
Dying, yeah. And it's still hard to talk about, really. But not saying he wasn't saved, because I think he was, honestly. But he was he was a rough guy to be around. If you didn't know where you stood with him, all you had to do is hang on just a second. He was going to tell you. I had a lot of friends in high school, and look, everybody, he was a great man. And anyway, to fast forward to where you're at here, is he was dying of cancer, and there was this preacher from the Methodist church that I had seen around a couple of times, and look, I was going to church every now and again, so I didn't know the dude. And one day he knocked on the door, and I opened the door, and it was that dude there, and Daddy was sick, okay? And the guy's like, I said, can I help you with something? He said, well, I'm here to talk to your dad. I'm like,
Told you I'm the preacher for the
yeah, I'm
Baptist.
Methodist Church. And I knew who he was. Like, man, I don't know if this is a good time. You know what I mean? I'm like, he said, well, I just wanted to check on him and everything. I'm like, this dude's finna cuss you out. Like
You told him that.
I told him that. Just like one time we went to church and I was probably 10 or 15 years old. I don't know, somewhere in the middle there. And there wasn't anywhere to sit, so we had to sit on the front row. And man, that dude is getting after it, and he's saying, if you don't do this, you're going to hell. If you don't do this, you don't do that. And my daddy was just sitting there the whole time. Of course, I'm not getting anything. I'm playing with my fingers or whatever. Anyway, we go to leave, and the guy said, Mr. Edwards, I'm glad you're here. I hope to see you again. And I did tell him, he said, I ain't never coming back. He said, well, why? He said, fella, you done sent me to hell 16 times. I don't think I want to come back. And I remember that, right? But to fast forward, after I told the guys, like, it probably ain't a good time. And my dad said, who is it? And I said, well, it's the preacher from the church. He said, well, let him in. And I did. And they talked about whatever they talked about, and I left. And it was one of them deals where I was working at the school and I was just going home to check on him, so it was a middle of the day deal. But after I found out it was an arrangement that they had worked out. So after I got to spend about 2 weeks while he was dying with him in the hospital, look, we talked about a whole bunch of stuff we never got a chance to talk about. And one of the things was, this is what a man's supposed to look like. Totally stuff I had never heard before. But to be honest, whenever he died, and he made me do a lot of promising, right? Promise that you're not going to put work in front of nothing else. Promise you're not going to do this. Promise you're not going to do that. And he did a whole lot of stuff right. Understand what I'm saying? But he knew that aspect was missing. So the fact that he died and he was saved is amazing to me, right? It gives me peace. And also, I'm the weird guy to think that he probably died, or it probably cost that to save me, right? So,
Because without him.
Without that, dude, you was at school at that time, and you were trying to speak truth into me, and I wasn't hearing it. Remember? I remember it. Every time you would get a chance to, and I, we were friends. I knew you, but I was like, I just wasn't where I was at. Yeah. And anyway, so fast forward a couple of years.
But that Methodist preacher that had the courage to come in there, do you even know who the preacher was?
No.
But your dad made his peace with the Lord.
Dad made his peace with the Lord.
And then told you, don't follow my example.
That's right. No, that's exactly right. And actually, first time I'd ever heard that man pray in my life was on his deathbed.
Wow.
So, there's that, right? Mm-hmm. So that's big. So I did a lot of promising, and I think it was probably just to ease him through whatever he was going through, and didn't think really much about it. I did a whole lot of promising. And then I went through a divorce, and anyway, met Misty.
Which is your wife.
Which is my wife now. And one of her deals was that we could date, but you're going to have to go to church, okay? So, let's be honest. I went to church, right? And I went. She was going to Crossroads, and that's pretty where I guess the new me was coming around. Is I was starting to listen to some dudes that we were in a class with, and they were men, and I was kind of seeing that, boy, this looks a little different than what I was thinking about.
Because your perception, I think a lot of people, not just is, I don't want to go to hell, so one day I'm going to go to church when I settle down. But your perception, most Christian men were weak, don't work,
that's right,
lazy.
Like all I could think about was this dude in a suit and tie singing hymns in a church and having soft hands. Honestly, if we want to know the truth, right? If we really want to know, and
Aubrey's over here shaking his hand now.
but not really now, right? I mean, not
Well,
really.
you know, it's
That's not
Say,
true.
man, man of God got to have blood under his fingers.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And
Right.
and that's a totally
right.
different dude than what I think it's a misconception, man. Like today we have to define manhood. You know?
well, I
Most
think
people
about
can't.
it, and I'm going to do this. What got me thinking about it is whenever we do these teachings on the put on the whole armor of God, it's always the breastplate shiny and the sword shiny and the helmet shiny and all.
Yeah.
But
think-
that's the case. That dude ain't been fighting.
He ain't in the war.
And
That's right.
I got a picture of one of the Micah's football games, and anyway, his whole uniform's muddy. You can tell he's probably been crying because they got beat, and he just looks all beat up. He's got some blood. And I was gonna get that picture blown up, and then use him, maybe get him to, if Coach Kid will let us come with his full uniform clean.
Yeah.
And looks impressive, but he ain't played.
Yes, right. No, that's
You
war.
want that picture with him muddy and bloody and crying, because that's what
That's exactly it's
the
war.
Christian life
No,
is
that's
war.
war. It's war. It's war. I get it confused between the difference between a cruise ship and a battleship.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I think we all think that this is going to be this Christian walk is a cruise ship. You know, everybody's catering to you. It's going to be great. We're going to have fun. No, man, this is a battleground. This is a battleship. You know, this is, as one guy would say, is an aircraft carrier. There's stuff, you know. It's so, I mean, I think that's where we're at.
So Missy got you in church, and you were in a small group or Sunday school class, and you started seeing men
And I
that
started seeing real men. Look, and I was thinking about this the other night, and I'm being honest that I had a roommate. His name is Chris Courtney. All right, he's the coach at Pisgah. Great dude, great dude. Anyway, I walked in his room one night, and this is after I got divorced, so he was living with me. I walked in this dude one night, and he's reading his Bible. I didn't know people did that then. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, I'm reading my Bible." I'm like, "Really?" I mean, I didn't know anybody that did that.
you just thought it was something you had to carry the church.
Yeah, I thought you did it. You took it when, I mean, and you probably knew better, but I'm telling you, to that point in my life, and I'm 28, I'm 30 years old roughly, right? I didn't know anybody but that dude that was reading his Bible. And I asked him, I said, he said, "What's the big deal?" I'm like, "No, that's good, I guess, but it just kind of floored me, you know, because I didn't know people really did that." And that's crazy, right? But as I'm pushing into this small group, and we called it a marriage counseling class, but even though it wasn't, it was just a bunch of married people, and there were some older people in there that was telling us what really happens and how, you know, the Christian marriage really looked. And man, I learned a lot of stuff in that class, but I saw men that I knew were men, right? That I had been beside and worked beside of and knew what they stood for. I saw them speaking about God and, you know, getting emotional, talking about what the blood did for them. And whenever you see that, you hear that, it's transformation. That's that guy inside you killed, right? So, and it just totally changed my mind. And I remember Brother John Vaughn was sitting there preaching one day, and he said, "If you died today, would you go to heaven?" And I remember I was sitting as far back in that church as I could get, and I thought to myself, "Surely I would go to heaven." And I said, "Because I'm not a bad guy. I don't really do a whole lot of bad stuff. I don't steal, I don't cheat. You know, I hadn't murdered anybody. You know, surely I would go to heaven." And the more I got to thinking about that surely part, I thought, man, I surely don't get me there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's whenever I made the real walk, right? And it was a total transformation. It was a renewed, and when I started really pushing into who Jesus was and what he did, And if we're talking about man stuff, and I know it's crazy, I get so emotional thinking about it.
I'm
But
sorry.
if we're talking about man
Hey,
stuff,
we're not gonna make fun of you getting emotional.
I know.
I don't know if y'all can tell how big and strong this guy is,
but if you talk about man stuff and you talking about what Jesus did for you, that's man stuff.
You got that right.
You know, that dude,
Statement there.
man, I mean, he didn't want, I always get twisted up. I don't think everybody can think about the fact that I don't think it was the nails that was scaring him. I think it was the separation, right? And man, if the separation, if he will endure that separation for this guy that is not worthy, that can't do it, that is a sinner, man, that's grace. That's true love. That is unconditional. That's unconditional stuff that I think if we were real and we really got to talking about man stuff, that's what a daddy looks like. That's what a man looks like.
Damon, I don't know if you can just, I know this, actually, I don't have a lot of possessions, but this possession means a lot to me. And we were on the mission trip to Mexico, and Brian presented this to me and a missionary friend of ours, Rusty Owens, and Ryan Merchant and Pastor Hector. But Brian actually researched to the best of his ability.
Yeah.
He did spend a lot of time, but this would have been as close as he could come up with in his research, the size and the type of nail that they would have nailed Jesus on the cross with. But you handmade this and gave this to us as a gift. But tell us about that process of making it by hand.
Just the beating of it was, of course, if you think about back then, that, when they're making stuff out of metal, it's a manual, very manual. And I'm sure I think of them having piles and piles and piles. So they were masterminds at crucifixion, so they knew exactly what worked and what didn't work. But it took a minute to whoop that out, and I did it with a forge and with a hammer.
But you did it purposely because you wanted to
wanted to do it, and I took it through it because that's real, and the fact that nail, man, that nail. I don't think of it as Jesus died on the cross. I think of Jesus died on my cross. That's mine, right? So, whenever you're sitting there making your own nails, that's real, so.
Well, like I said, I appreciate it, and I think about it when you gave it to us or to me, man, it meant a lot to me, and it still does. And this sits on my TV, and I remember distinctly you talking about making it, and then the process of thinking about, like you said, I always think about Barabbas. I should have been Barabbas. I am Barabbas.
Barabbas is, I am Barabbas.
So, but when you was talking about the nails, this morning when I was getting ready, the Lord put that, I said, take that nail, and I wanted to bring that up. You transition from just being a believer to a follower. And then there's a couple bumps in the road.
There's some bumps, man. It's life, right? That flesh is real. And but what was so wild was, man, I kicked along for a while from that, and then COVID got me, dude. COVID, I was so mad, but I was so mad.
Because you got upset. Because really the only church and faith community you had was your church, Crossroads, and then you didn't like what they decided to do.
I didn't like the fact that we shut the church down, and then I ain't just talking about Crossroads. I'm talking about the whole believing system. We shut the world down, and look, I had to do a lot of soul searching behind that because I was so mad, and it was weird because I don't know. I was in such a place in my life where I felt like I was on a roller coaster, and it was 100 miles an hour running straight to Jesus. Like it was a beeline, right? And we were doing a lot of good stuff, man. And COVID shut us down. COVID shut the world down. And then the couple of weeks that nobody went to church was all it took for me. Look, with this new kick, I have to do hard things, right? That's my new my new motto in life is I could do hard things, right? And if you give me easy things to do, I'm always going to take the easy way out. And COVID gave me a lot of easy things to do because now we're shut church down, so we don't have to get up, we don't have to go, and that means we're going to do it at home. And we did for a week or two, but then what happened, right? Something happened, and we didn't do it the next day, and we just didn't do it the next day. And then look, and it's 100% on me because that's mine, right? Yeah. That's my place to do. And I fell asleep, and I call it a slumber, or call it whatever you will, but
that was such a, and we're not casting stones at anybody because that was such a weird time. But I have thought so many times. I remember being awkward around Aubrey because Aubrey's wife died of COVID, and we would be around people that would say, all this COVID stuff is a bunch of crap. It's all make believe. Yeah, and here's a guy that lost. So it was real. And but it was so, and I've never told this before, so now it's going out to the whole world, but I only go to the doctor, which is not a good thing. I ain't been to a checkup, but me and Chastity were going on a mission trip, and come to find out, you can't get on a plane without a COVID shot. So I just went and got a COVID shot, but I didn't tell anybody. Well, what was interesting, I had family members, some that thought that I wouldn't get it, and they would call me and tell me pretty much I wanted people to die, and you know, because then I'd have other people that thought I got it and was disappointed, and they didn't know either way. So I was getting it from both sides, people's opinion, and I never did tell anybody what I did because it's nobody's business.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
No, it's 100%.
Then it got to the same thing with the mask and the no mask, and I just saw where the church, where, like I said, it wasn't you pray and you do what you think you're supposed to do. It was like if you got the shot, you were a sheep and following the Antichrist, and if you didn't, you wanted people to die. And I can remember, and like we kept doing what we did, but I understood why churches took the position and pressure, but also we never did. We kept rolling what we were doing, and I remember going to Mexico during that time, and we stopped at a hotel. That's so funny because Walter Hudson, and we went in and we just walked in to get a room, and the woman said, "Y'all don't have masks on, y'all gonna get in trouble." And Walter's like, "Ma'am, I've been in real trouble before." And he finally told her, says, "I got coins, I got cash, I got checks, I got credit cards. We just need to sleep." Yeah. And I won't say any names, but we was with one woman, and she kept on, and the lady took her shirt off, really took it, and wrapped it around her head like a turban and said, "Will this work?" And she said, "That counts." And I'm like, this ain't make sense. And I remember flying, and you had to wear a mask to fly on that mission trip. But when they served your drink,
you could take it off.
You took the mask off, and I drank a cup of coffee. And man, as soon as I got that coffee done, that woman was like, "Put your mask on, put your mask on." And it was such a confusing time. But I have seen, this is just my opinion, I think it caused a division that we haven't recovered from.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like the church is, in my opinion, still more divided, and I think that was the devil, just kind of
it's the enemy, dude, 100%.
A little crack. But to your credit, you've told me before, man, I handled that wrong. I should have
100% I handled it wrong. And that was look, and I'm telling you, I went into a 2 or 3 year funk, and isolation is terminal. And that's where I was at. I was on an island by myself. Even though my family was there, but I was just a guy there, dude. I was just a guy. I was there with the big stuff, but I wasn't there for the spiritual stuff. I was just taking up space. And it was funny, man. It was a whole.
Did you realize it at the time? Because I know.
No.
I know at the time so many people was like, the church tells us to have faith and all that. They're hypocrites because we should. Was that kind of where you were?
That's where that was my line in the sand. That was where I was gonna die. That was the hill I was gonna die on. Was we're saying don't have fear, but man, we are scared. You know what I mean? And I don't know. Whatever it was, whatever I made it to be, because and look, I told you, that was on me. Whenever I finally come out of it, I have moments where I hear from God. You know what I mean? Like I'm that guy that thinks that you can't have an encounter and not remember where it's at. So I can pretty much tell you where I was at. But I was laying in bed and I heard it like it was not audible, but like it was pointed directly at me, and it said, how about the problem might not be them? And I'm like, yeah, I know. And it was weird. Like, God's good, man. He works. He knows when. I mean, it just, everything happens right. This Better Man conference was coming up, and Mike Myers, the guy that we were just talking about, had invited me to it out of the blue. And why he invited me to it, I don't know. But the moment he invited me to it, I said yes. And dude, think about how many times before that you had tried to get me to go do stuff, go to Mexico, and like, I wasn't hearing it, man. But I was in such a funk, I was so disconnected by that time that, I don't know, to the point where, I've honestly tried to apologize to everybody in my family for being there. My son, my daughters, my wife, because I was just a guy. I was just taking up space. But man, whenever I went to that Better Man conference, it kind of put me into a different gear, man. It brought me, I could see where he was talking about, you can't become something that you don't know the definition of. So I had to get back to find myself again. I had to figure out who I was, and who I am is I'm a son of God. I'm a highly favored son of God. I've been redeemed. I'm saved. I'm washed by the blood. I'm totally forgiven. I'm anointed by Him. I'm prized. Man, I had to hear that, right? I had to make myself hear that again. And I don't know, man, whenever I come out of it, it's like, how big of an idiot can you be? I literally asked the question.
Like Romans 7.
Yeah, dude.
Anytime you feel bad, or because people that don't know the Bible, they'll say, I'm just so aggravated myself because what I want to do, I don't do, and what I don't. And I said, Romans 7. Just read Romans, because Paul felt the same way.
Matter of fact, I asked that question 2 or 3 weeks ago to our Monday night group. I said, and look, I already knew the answers to what I was asking, but I really wanted to know the answers again. And I said, why do we find ourselves so close to God and in so peace and in joy? The true peace and true joy, you can only find that one place, and where it's at, and it feels right. And look, when you're there, you don't have any marital issues, you don't have any financial issues, you don't have any strifes. Everything works its way out. But when you're not in that wheel, when you're not there, you're fighting against it all, right? So the question is, why do we find ourselves back in that junk over and over and over, where we know where the good stuff is? I call it the juice, right in the middle. It's sweet nectar, like where we know it's good. Why do we find ourselves back over there? And what we all come up with is that flesh is real. That flesh is real. Look, Adam and Eve found themselves in the presence of God every day. But yet,
the flesh, that's right.
Flesh.
And when you read the scripture, I call them refrigerator verses, where you put it up and it sounds good. I've been crucified with Christ. No longer I who live, but Christ which lives in me. And that's but think about crucifixion. That sounds good, but when you start thinking, I'm fixing to crucify my flesh.
Be careful what you're asking for. Yeah.
That means sacrifice and denying yourself and carrying your own cross. It doesn't it's not like a magical word that you say that just happens.
I go back to the the series The Chosen, where some of the disciples were like, am I going to be on your right? Am I going to be on your left? And it's such a good moment to me, because he turns around and looks at him like, you're a bunch of idiots. You still don't get it. You know what I mean? You don't know what you're asking for. You don't have a clue. And they didn't. They were talking about the good stuff. And he was saying, you can't have the good stuff without the hard stuff too. There ain't no way.
We had a preacher Sunday that preached on Exodus 14 about going, they left Egypt and they look ahead, it's the Red Sea, and look behind, it's the enemy, both sides of the mountain. But the comment he made is, for you to get to something, you have to go through something.
Man, that I am a firm believer in that in order to get through the good stuff, you got to do hard things. Because look, remember a couple weeks ago when we were in Bible study and I asked y'all, is this easy to you? I didn't just ask that for a reason. I asked that to be real, because it sounds like it's easy for everybody. And I know it's not, but for Brian, it's a grind. You know what I mean? And it's dumb because I really pushed into the Passion Week a couple of years ago, just thinking about the day, right? What the day looked like, what the hour to hour looked like, and the hiding in the upper room of being quiet and all the whole things, and going to the garden and praying, and this guy's not showing up. I mean, just all that anguish and man, to really press in, I think you have to really understand what that week looked like. You know, that week started out with him being treated like a king, and it ended in the worst possible way there was, right? And Mary looking at her son, just so to be, you know, I don't want to call it murder, because there was no murder that day. You know, I don't think anybody should get that twisted. Nobody got murdered that day. He gave himself up fully to be there. But just what he had to endure, not just the physical stuff, but the mental stuff. And man, I don't want to negate that, right? I don't want to negate that. So Tyler Moore did a Devo last night. He started out and he said, sometimes I don't feel adequate. I'm like, yeah, you're adequate, dude. You're worthy. And if we can get that junk out of our brain that you are worthy, you're worth dying for, 100%, you know, over and over. So it's just all that, man. You know.
You went to the Better Man Conference. God fired you up, and you left there thinking, how can I reach?
Yeah, dude, I wanted to do Better Man at I wanted to go to 100 of them, because you were around a bunch of guys that were like-minded, and it's a bunch of men just trying to get through it, right? Just trying to be better, a better man, a better husband, a better father, a better friend, a better employee, a better boss, a better everything, right? And that's a grind. So I was literally just looking, see what, you know, like, what did that look like for me? Because, man, everything they were putting out, I was buying. And Kyle, he absolutely, have you ever heard that dude preach? He can absolutely bring it. I mean, he had me on edge. And then we started. They had this other thing that come up with this conference in Jackson. There was, I think, 3,000 men there, and I saw people there that I didn't know that I'd see there. Right, I had a chance to sit down with one of my cousins, and he was by himself, and he was able to come sit with us. And it was huge, and now that guy's on fire, and he's helping other people, man. And I'm just saying that's so when I went through that, I was trying to find something to keep me back in where I needed to be, and I know that I was being I had to do something, right? And I've got a couple buddies, Junior Pierce and Cameron Fitzgerald. Cameron is both of them are business owners. One of them owns Elite Fiberglass, and the other one owns Arca. Yeah, I think it's Arca. Anyway, sorry, Cameron. But regardless of the fact is, I went and was talking to them because they were at that Better Man conference, and these are dudes, right? These are dudes. And I said, man, I want to do something. And Cameron's like, well, whatever you want to do. And this was over chicken at Chick-fil-A at 6 o'clock in the morning. And that's kind of where us three would hash things out. And we'd do a lot of griping about, you know, what our weeks look like and trying to get through just with each other more than anything. And I don't know, man. I was thumbing through TikTok one night. And it was one of those nights I couldn't sleep. And it was probably 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And this thing come across Men's Alliance. And it's a bunch of dudes being muddy and doing a workout. And I like to go to the gym, and I like to do stuff like that. And then they did a real world devotion afterwards. So I got to looking into it.
Now, explain the real world devotion.
All right. So what a real world devotion is it's not the David and Goliath Bible stories. It's not the Bible story. It's not a devotion that somebody would pull out of a book or a Bible or anything. It's what God's really doing, or what's going on in your life, and how you're reading for that week, or some other brother or somebody else pulled you out of that, and this is what it looks like. And that's what a real world devotion looks like, is what's really happening with you. So doing all that and going through that, and I told them, I said, look, I want to do something. Of course, they're like, yeah, man, we're down for whatever. We'll help whatever you want to do. And I was trying to find a place to do it. And look, I'm just coming out of my funk, right? So I've got a church. My church is Crossroads Baptist Church. But at the time, there was a new preacher, and I didn't know him. I didn't know him at all. Mm-hmm. And I'd been a couple of times and seen him, but that dude didn't know me. Like, I didn't know him. And I had to find somewhere to host this thing. And I even thought about doing it at Mike Myers' house. Thought about doing it at my house. But it was so far out in the country. And I said, I think we need to do this at a church. And I need to find somewhere to do it first. And then I'm going to look at doing this. But I was still thinking, nah, I'm not the guy. I need to find the guy to do it. But talking to Cameron and them, I said, well, I'm going to find somewhere. And look, I asked Stephen,
pastor
at Crossroads Church. I said, what does this look like? And he said, absolutely. He said, he's a men's ministry guy, right? And oh man, he don't know me, and I just never would have thought that it would have went through, honestly. You know, I just didn't think it was.
Because unfortunately, some experiences I've had, I know you've had with pastors and churches, is no, and all these are legit, liability issues, or they're not Methodist or Baptist. That's or right. Whatever the thing is. But he just said, man, it's great if it reaches men for Jesus.
Dude, I'm on about it. And my deal is I didn't want this to be a Crossroads Baptist Church thing, right? And look, the whole time I'm thinking this, I'm still trying to find somebody to lead this thing, because I'm not the guy. Okay, but I know that this would be cool. And anyway, I'm dealing and struggling through all this stuff, and I'm hanging out with a bunch of my buddies on we have this a group, and it's a bunch of guys. We call ourselves Barker Road Mafia. All it is a bunch of old dudes that just get together and cook on once a night, and it's pretty fun, because you do get to hang out. We always work, so nobody ever gets to hang out. So anyway, we're there, and I just started up another business called HVX Solutions, and we're doing a hydrovac excavation. So I say all that to say this is I was thinking about that in this Men's Alliance at one time, and my partner called me and he said, man, it looks like we're fixing to start rolling this thing. I said, it's cool. But I was sitting there and I was kind of taken back by it, because it's a big step. And I was sitting there going, man, I don't know what I'm going to do here. I don't know what I'm going to do here. And I was just all in a tizzy about this men's alliance thing and about that thing. And here's the dumb part about Brian is I know where the answers are. But I'm still a dude before I'm anything else. So I'm a Mr. Fix-It. I handle things on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And I told Cameron this, and I'm like, and I'm just being transparent, is I still hadn't asked God for anything. It's, you know what I mean? I mean, even after all this, even in the middle of all this, and even if everything's rolling, I'm still trying to handle things.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember on the way home, and I don't live about 2 miles from Gary, so I remember on the way home, I was just sitting there, and it dawned on me, and I stopped in the driveway, and I just prayed, and I heard it is like it's sitting right here. He said, "Have I ever let you down? No. Have I always had you? Yep. Why would I start now?" I said, "All right, so here's what we're going to do again." You know, I'm going to let you do you, and I'm going to do you till you tell me to stop. So whatever you tell me to do, I'm going to do. Whatever you tell me to do. And then it wasn't long after that, you asked me, what was your next, what did you say? What is your next?
What's going to be your next step of obedience?
It wasn't 2 or 3 days after that you asked me that. And that was just me letting go, right? Me just doing, letting God be God, man. Letting him do the hard things, because that's what he's good at. And I'm just going to be along for the ride, right? So I went home and I asked my wife, and I said, "Look, I got 2 questions. One is this new thing." She said, "Look, let's do whatever you think you need to do." And I'm like, "Okay, we're going to put the foot on the gas." And then this next thing is said, "Okay, God, I'm going to be obedient to you. I'm going to quit looking for the guy. I'm just going to do it." So I called Cameron. Next day I went over there and I told him all this stuff. I'm squalling like a baby. And I told him, I said, "Look, man, Steven said we can do it at Crossroads. We're just gonna roll this thing, see what happens." And I called the Men's Alliance people, man, and they have been nothing but supportive, and they helped me get stuff straight. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but it was a pretty serious deal. Like I was vetted for about 2 weeks, I think. I mean, I had to fill out all these questions about who I was and what I stood for, and so I mean, as I'm going through all this stuff, man, I'm pushing in because, hey, you want to know where somebody stands, right? You don't want to just send them out there with a ball if they're going to coach it wrong. And I told Cameron, I said, "Well, if don't nobody show up, it'll be us 3." And I think 7 dudes showed up that day.
I always have a hard time articulating things the way I know it in my head and my heart, but I know Brother Rusty has always said that their belief is that the guy that says this is what we ought to do, that maybe God's wanting you to do it.
Yeah.
Like people come in and say, "Hey, I think y'all to build a house and something." Well, maybe God wants you to lead that.
That's right.
But what's crazy, you feel like you're not the guy, but I've always said this about you, which is a blessing and curse. If you decide that, hey, let's go across Highway 49 and drink beer this afternoon, you got 12 guys that'll do that with you.
Yeah.
And then you say, "Hey, let's go to Bible study." You got 12 guys, and you just got that leadership charisma about you, but you don't see yourself as that way, do you?
No, I don't, man. Well, you know, it's the whole thing, right? Is I don't know, man. I just want to be good, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to do good. I want to be good, and I want to try to do what's right. And I really do want to treat everybody else as they would, you know.
So naming this Men's Alliance is it's an organization.
It's an organization.
And they're an official Men's Alliance. Aubrey and I, we've started unofficial one at the jail. There's a lot of reasons why we couldn't follow their thing, but anyway, this sounds crazy, but what they do is a 30-minute CrossFit workout.
Oh yeah, that's what you were telling me about,
and
right?
that was the thing, because I used to lead workouts, and now I can't jog to the door here without being out of breath. And my thing was, I don't want to have Brian standing over me like, quit being soft. I'm too old for that. And I got too much pride. And but that was the kind of thing that I was like, wow, that's a turn off. But they do a 30-minute workout. But what's cool about it, this is seriously, their rule is don't die.
Yeah.
So if you'll have guys that are just like, you'll got guys with sledgehammers hitting tires, but you'll have a guy that's just walking around.
That's right.
And then they do a devotion. And this is another cool thing. They build a fire. It doesn't matter if it's raining, it doesn't matter if it's hot. But if I build a fire this week, you build it next week, Brian. If I do the devotion this week, it's not the same guy, even the workouts. But I saw a light switch go off, because when I got there, it was like, I'm Scott. Hi, I'm Damien. I'm from Florida. I'm from Pelagie. But when you start doing that workout together,
None of that matters.
everybody started laughing and joking. And man, this is terrible. Who came up with it? And then it carried on into the devotion. And it was crazy. So I told, and y'all are reaching guys that aren't church guys. That's the beautiful thing about it. So I told Aubrey about it, and we did it at the jail, and we had the same experience that the first night there was a guy that was throwing up during our devotion. You don't see that at church very often. The guy on all fours puking, but we've had the same experience. We're having guys that aren't coming to our church services at the jail, but are coming to this, and it's the same thing. That me and Aubrey's not doing the devotion work; those are doing it.
So now, are the females doing that as well? Because
No,
Misty said something about last night when we were doing the interviews, something about when she was at the Rankin County Jail,
Yeah.
that they were doing this workout regiment thing as well. Is that it? Or
Well, no, sir. The trustees do have, they have a running team where they get to go out and run 5Ks, and they get to exercise. So that's a whole different thing.
Okay, I was wondering about that.
But anyway, and I've seen it work. And what's crazy, like Chad Thompson called me the other day. And man, Chad's really chasing after the Lord and involved in church and all. But he says, Scott, we're not doing something right, because I've been in church with these guys, and I talk to them more during that 30-minute workout, 30-minute devotion than I've had in 10 years going to sit in the Sunday school class and all. So, but y'all started from 7, and now how many of y'all have?
We're averaging 20 guys a night, and we've had up to 30, 35.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's
and guys that aren't.
they're all over the place, man. And that was my deal, right? Was take Chad, for example. Me and Chad's been friends a long time. We're buddies. But if you don't work together and you don't go to church together, you never see each other, you never hang out. So when we started this thing, he started coming. We've kind of rekindled a friendship that I ain't gonna say that fell off, but we just kind of got disconnected, right? And that's crazy, because that dude is going to church and he's worshiping, and now we get to worship together. Now we get to do. Man, I don't like boundary lines, right? I don't like the boundary lines. So that's the cool thing about it is that the Baptist, that the Crossroads Baptist Church, Antioch Baptist Church, Shiloh, and Church of the King, and then you got some of the Hanger people. Everybody's there together. Pine Lake people,
And you're getting guys that don't go to church
and
anywhere.
you're getting guys that don't go to church anywhere, and that's the. But I think it's the real part, right? The motto is travel rugged real, and the deal is every man wants to be a part of a tribe, because what did we say? Isolation is terminal, and that isolation is terminal. That's matter of fact. I think the back of my shirt says that is you get by yourself. It's that whole 1 Peter 5 thing that be on guard, stand watch, be of sober mind. Don't be anxious. The devil is looking, prowling like a lion, looking for you to devour. And I'm on the Joby Martin kick now, which listened to a lot of his sermons. And
What's his name?
Joby Martin. Man, he's awesome. He's I think in Tallahassee, Florida. I think that dude they baptized like 3,000 or 5,000 people 1 month. You know, so I mean, it's a whole men's, and I think what we're seeing is a men's deal that's starting to build and starting to resonate and grow, and men are coming out of the woodworks and they're tired of I don't know.
Mediocrity.
Do what?
Tired of mediocrity,
Yeah,
man.
they're tired of being skimming around the truth, right?
Right.
And they kind of resonate with a guy that's saying, "Look, I struggle to get up every morning and read my Bible. It's not easy for me." I think of it as battle. Like now, I think of doing hard things. Like I have to. It's a grind to me. I have to wage war against anxiety. I have to wage war against isolation. You know, I have to wage war against myself, because that's what it is, right? It is a battlefield.
You know, I think too, man, that, you know, everything is so fake nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not throwing rocks at anybody, but if you pick up your phone right now and scroll through Facebook, you see the interpretation that people want you to have of their lives, and you just get this aura that none of it's real, right?
It's real.
So people really are starting to seek out true, authentic, you know, something that's actually real, because we live in such a fake time.
Yeah, man, it's and look, guys don't resonate with that, right? We resonate with seeing the struggles,
Right, man.
right? Seeing the struggles and saying, "Hey, we don't have it all figured out."
I read the book. It's a great book, by the way, called Wild at Heart.
Wild at Heart, man, that's my dude.
And I remember him talking about the movies. And I know you and I've got a lot of the same taste, but like the movies we watch are like Lonesome Dove and Braveheart or Saving Private Ryan. But he talked about that's what we watch, but that's not how we live.
No, that's right.
You know, and his big thing was that every man has a woman to romance, you know, your wife, an adventure to live, and a battle to fight.
Battle to fight, that's right.
And that appeals to us, but we set up church.
We don't
Well, it's
sit-
not that way.
I know.
You know, and I get it, because you know, you don't want to be leading a ministry and say, "Hey, me and my wife just got in a big fight, and I
Yeah.
cussed her out. She told me, you know."
I get that, but look, but those things happen, right? So the
Yes.
question is where do we go from there?
Yes.
If you've got a band of brothers with you, right? How do they help you get through that, right? Because all those movies that you just talked about, there was not one guy by himself. You know, Young Guns, The Regulators, right? Wholesome Dove, yeah,
Mount up.
Captain Call and Augustus
That's
Gray,
right.
right? They were together. That dude took him all the way back, right? Band of Brothers. I mean, you think about all these movies that you resonate with.
And what's crazy, biblically, and once you see this, you can't not
Unsee it, right?
But even when Peter preaches a sermon at Pentecost, it's a little, you kind of read over it, but it says he stood up and the disciples were around him. He didn't just, y'all stay here, and the whole thing about the Bible is fellowship and being together. And even Jesus, I can't show you a Bible verse that says, you know, turn to Leviticus,
Right, yeah.
but when he went to the Garden of Gethsemane,
He
gave
took
Peter,
his boys
James,
with him. You doggone right he did. He
James
took
and
his
John.
boys with him.
That's
He
right.
didn't go
Mount
by
of
himself.
Transfiguration,
Right.
Peter,
Yeah.
James, and John. When you know, I think it was Jairus, whoever's daughter. You remember he kicked everybody out of the house.
Yep.
But he brought them in with him.
That's right.
And he's God, but he wanted. What'd you say? His
He
boys.
wanted his boys with him. I mean, look, isolation. That's why I keep going back. Isolation is terminal, right? If you're talking about the lion, and if you go out in Africa and there's a herd of gazelle, that lion's not fixing to run up in the middle of that. But
No.
you let a three-legged one over there drinking water by itself, and look, we all know what's finna happen.
It's it.
That's dinner time. Right?
Yes, sir. It's it.
I mean, that dude is looking for you by yourself. And guess where I was at in my funk? Right by myself. Not because you let me, right? Because my buddies were trying to get me out of there. But listen, I wasn't hearing it, right? And thank goodness I come out of it.
You know, I think I really needed to hear this today myself, man, because that's kind of where I've been myself. I'm not talking about in the past. I'm talking about now.
Yeah.
Lately, I find myself by myself all the time. I'm just hold it up inside of my house, man, and and it's hard because we deal with these things, the depression, the stress that we're under, and we find ourselves where we don't really want to be around people, even though we know it's better to be around people. But then, the whole time you just kind of want to take off and be that gazelle over there by yourself. So I mean, I really can appreciate what you're saying right now, man, because I'm literally going through it right now.
That's safe, man. You're safe there. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to do anything extra. And look, it's easy. That's the easiest place you could be in. It's going to be hard to climb out of that hole. It's going to be hard to face the fact that you're being trying to think of a good word. You're being who you are. You're being weak because you're in this hole by yourself. It's hard facing that, right?
Yeah.
And man, look, I'm just, and I think that's our deal, right? It's a grind. It's a grind. And for me, look, when we do that workout last night, we have call signs. So we give each other call signs, and it always goes off of stuff that you did or something funny. So we got this guy named Swish, and it's a great story, by the way. I'll put it here. But anyway, Swish was stepped up and did the workout last night. And look, when I looked at that workout was brutal. I mean, it was nasty, okay? And it was hot yesterday, okay? And you get off work and you have to do that. And I'm going to be honest with you, when we're sitting up here getting ready to go, everybody's looking, and we got this board, and whoever does the workout that day writes it on the board. That's when everybody sees it. And man, we're looking at this thing, and I'm going, goodness gracious. And Tyler Moore is our workout chief. So if somebody has a problem with a workout or trying to figure out one, they'll call Tyler. Well, Swish didn't ask Tyler. So Tyler's looking at it, and that's his job. He likes to do that CrossFit stuff. I hate it. Okay, I hate everything about it. I like to lift weights. I don't like to do none of that running and jumping. So he's looking at it. His eyes are like this right here, and I go over looking at it. I'm like, he's like, man, this is unattainable. Is where I could see his brain going. I'm like, come on, man. Like you got to kind of, man, this, think about it a little bit. Like, this unattainable. But guess what? We got down there at 6:30 and we started grinding it. And those seconds started getting off, and there was people that was hurting. There was a bunch of grumbling. And I was telling Swish that everybody's got your email. They're going to send you hate mail after, today. And, but dude, think about that though. When we got through and I was walking up to the hill when we were fixing to get ready to start our Devo, and I thought about it, I'm like, it was hard. I wouldn't have done that if he wouldn't have wrote it down.
Well,
I wouldn't have.
And you wouldn't have done it if everybody, your brothers wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't have done that. And look, and I said thank you, and everybody's laughing. I said, no, really. Think about what he just did for you. He made you do hard things. He just helped you, right? Because look, anytime you're moving and jumping and running, it's helping your body. It's helping your temple, right? It's growing you as a man. It's helping you. You wouldn't have done that on your own.
And we learned, me and Aubrey talked about when we were doing it with our guys that are in jail. Like if I say I'm going to get in shape, I may go get on treadmill or try to, but we were doing stuff that me and Aubrey both would have never done. And it's not because you think it's a pride thing, but it's really not, because we have McGuire, and I wanted to, he's an MMA guy. If he wasn't, I'd have hit him in his mouth. He would say,
I wouldn't do that though.
He would say, 30 seconds left. You can do anything for 30 seconds. And my legs were gel. I'm like, well, I can't do another lunge. You can do anything for 30 seconds, but it's not a pride thing, because I would just tap out. I'm like, I can't do it. But it was the fact that everybody else was doing it. It was more of an encouragement, like, well, I'm going to try to do one more. But you're right. It's something about being all together. What's crazy about it is that somehow we've disconnected, because it's biblical for us to be together as iron sharpens iron.
That's hard.
Two are better. I love Ecclesiastes. I think it's in chapter 4 where it talks about how two are better than one. And, they can watch each other's back and keep each other warm. But it's all biblical, and it's how the church should be. But somehow we've dropped the ball, so we have to do things like this to get back to that. To what the church should be is us encouraging one another and helping one another.
Yeah, see, I think it got really twisted somewhere along the lines, and not saying that these things aren't important, okay, because they 100% are, but our churches got really focused towards children, right? Because we get children, we get families, and we got really focused towards being comfortable, right? And men don't resonate with being comfortable. We like to be comfortable, but if you really want to get us initiated, you say, look, let's build something, right? Let's go out there and move something. You know, if you need help moving tables, all the men are going to come out of the sanctuary.
Y'all are hunters. I'm not a big hunter, but the deer camp's not built like a Hilton hotel.
No, that's right.
And that's part of the appeal. When I went
appeal.
with Auburn, then it was the coldest weekend, but it was they had a little thermostat. We had this wood burning stove just cranked up, and it was still 62 degrees in there. But that's what made it fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's the
I don't want to live that way, but for us cooking and the building the fire and all that, that's what made it fun.
And I think it all goes back to that First Peter 5, that to not worry, right, and to not be anxious. You know, our pride gets in the way sometimes in that. And I think that if we talk about worship, you know, with Paul telling Timothy to lift your hands up to worship, you know, when you're in the sanctuary. And a lot of us guys feel awkward about that, you know what I mean? But as you know, Joby I watched a sermon a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about that. He was hitting on all the stuff that I'm talking about, and it just resonated with me because, look, if you win, the first thing you're going to do is raise your hands and say, "Look, I won." You know what I mean? So it ain't like we can't. It's the fact that we won't let our pride kind of gets in the way of letting ourselves letting ourselves worship. And if you start looking at where you're called to be as a man, you know, if we can get our pride out of the way and we can avoid isolation, and then you know, there's a lot to that. And I think we're missing that sometimes in the church about helping men kind of get out of whatever they're in or what they're afraid of, or I don't know if it's afraid. That probably ain't right, because look, sometimes you just there, right? And
we have to fear man. We have to fear man.
yeah, I think that's right. And see, in our Monday night deal, the answer to the question, if somebody asks how was your week, the answer is not fine, because we're not going to let you be there, because we all know you're not fine, right? And look, when everybody gets that mindset, and they know that guy's going to hold them accountable, right? And you start verbalizing stuff, and stuff starts coming out, and you start getting free from this, right? These change and these bondage comes off, and you start seeing redemption. You start seeing transformation and grace start flowing through. And I think when dudes finally realize what they're called to do, I heard a statement a couple of weeks ago, and it said that God's never going to allow you to meet the man that he made for you to become if you keep feeding the guy you are. You know, you're never going to be allowed to meet the man that he wants you to become if you keep feeding the guy you are, right? And that resonates with me, because that means that, man, if I want to really be the guy that God called me to be, I got to quit feeding this other dude, right? Because this other dude will eat, right? He'll eat when it's easy.
You were talking because, you know, I know Aubrey's got this saying, the best day ever, you know, and this, you know, when we talk about this is the day that the Lord's made, I will rejoice and be glad in it. So there is this aspect of walking through this thing and victory and being positive. But I read this yesterday, and I was in a correctional facility, and I don't know, it had nothing, I was teaching a class, and this verse was just kind of a footnote. Man, it hit me. But it's 2 Corinthians 12, and we all know it says, "My grace is all you need." But then this, "My power works best in weakness."
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, because we know, God, give me your grace, give me your grace. But then he's telling us that I do better when you're weak.
Yeah.
And then I read this because it goes on. It says, "I'm going to boast in my weakness." And then Paul says, "That's why I take pleasure in my weaknesses and in the insults and the hardships and the persecutions and the troubles that I suffer. For when I am weak, then I am strong." It made me think about when you talk about, y'all tell your guys, your week's not being fine, because even if you had the perfect week, something happens. And we see this in our, I say our world, like in the recovery community, but I've learned this, that like we'll say recovery, we use the term relapse, but for a Christian that's never even drank a drop of alcohol, that would be backsliding. We try to separate. We're all on this journey with Jesus, but in our world, what I'll see so many times is, you may be doing really, really good, and you got out, and I go to Madison County Jail. It's like, "Brian, what are you doing here?"
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I hear so much. They'll say, "Man, I was doing good, but my dad got cancer, or my wife wanted to separate, or I got fired." So really what they're saying is, I hit adversity.
Hit adversity.
And I thought that everything was going to be perfect, and I hit adversity. And somehow we can learn, and I struggle with it. So I'm not, I wish I could be that guy, say, "Hey, listen to me. This is what you do." But if we can learn that when we had those problems, that's when God's really trying to just show up and do something great. I mean, that's what Paul's saying there. And,
Yeah, man. Tyler Moore said this the other day. He said, "There's more grace in Jesus than sin in you." And I was like, "Whew, dude, that's truth." And I won't read all this, but man, I wrote some stuff down the other day, and it was out of Romans 5, and it was just like, man, it was just talking to me, and it was saying, it was God was saying to me, in the midst of my trials and trials, do not lose heart. I see the weight you carry and the challenge you face and the perseverance you are showing. Know this, my sufferings are not without purpose, and it is forging something beautiful within you. And if you think about that, man, if you think about those storms, look, those storms that's that whole iron sharpens iron, right? Mm-hmm. That's a violent thing that has to happen in order to sharpen a knife. Mm-hmm. It has to take it away. It has to take metal away. It's not an easy process.
Isn't that funny? Because when we do that verse, "Iron sharpens iron," we think hugging each other and
that's violent, man. That is violent. Yeah.
When you're sharpening,
when you're sharpening a blade, you're taking metal away. I mean, it's not easy to do. So I think those storms, man, the storms is what makes you who you are. And that's why I try not to get tripped up too much about my slumber, right? Because I'm not, I wish I could just spend every day in the presence of God, right? And never leave. But man, whenever I went to sleep, when I came out of that, I feel like I'm way stronger than I was. and I was just, and I know I was just talking to myself whenever I was going through that. And it was the whole, don't lose heart. I'm with you. That Christ didn't promise an easy road. He promised us victory. I want you to take heart, for this process is working for the good. The endurance you gain will lead you to a character that reflects my love and strength. I mean, if you think about those words, man, those words are not easy, right? Because when you're going through these storms are hard, and you're thinking, why is this happening to me? Man, I was thinking about Jonathan yesterday, mm-hmm. and what he was going through. And I mean, he had a stroke, and he's just really been dealing a hard time about talking. But like you you know that whenever I came to that Bible meeting, I mean, that guy.
Damon, we have a friend that he was a timber cruiser. He's got a crazy testimony, but anyway, successful business timber cruiser, and he was out cruising to a young guy too, and he had a stroke. And see, these kids found him. They thought he was a hobo.
Yeah, I don't know.
And he scared them. He was just trying to get to a pond. He was out there. He should be dead, but anyway, if you look at him, and, you know, he walks and carries himself, but he doesn't have any strength in his right hand, and he doesn't speak. And we do a Bible study on Wednesday morning, and Brian had never seen him, never met him, and he texted me that morning and said, "That dude touched my heart today. Who is he? What's the story?" And then just crazy how this stuff happens. We take a mission trip to Mexico, and I only know who's going, and Jonathan's there, the guy with the stroke, and we're like,
Wow.
he ends up get off the bus with some teenagers, like, "What are you doing here?" But they prayed for him. Like, his heart's desire is to be able to share his testimony now, because God used that stroke. He said he was all about money, trucks, houses, and now God pretty much put a pause in his life. And while we were in Mexico, he made the mistake of saying, "I want God to give me my speech back." And man, it's so funny. They put so much anointing oil. He looked like Elvis. We had to ride back home. And you remember they looked like Fonzie.
Man, they did. They had to move.
He looked like
We
Fonzie.
stopped to eat, and he had this old Fonzie here. But man, they anointed and prayed. But since then, his speech is slowly getting better.
Man. Last night he was. It was time for his call sign, and I kind of told him, you know, just kind of take it, do your call sign whenever you get ready, and all you got to do is you got to say your name. You got to say the motto, which is travel rugged real, and then the Bible verse of the men's alliance is Proverbs 27:17, iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another, and then say a little bit about yourself. Well,
And you tell him to take it easy because he's
do it.
speaking.
Yeah, do it whenever you want to, right? Because I knew that, because I kept telling him, "Look, I want you to do it. I want you to do it." You know, and he says, I'm gonna do it. He's been writing his testimony down. He's been sending me stuff, and anyway, last night I said there was 2 or 3 of y'all we got to get a call sign for, and I didn't point at Jonathan because I didn't want to call him out if he wasn't ready. And he said, "And me." So I said, "And you." All right. So he got up last night and said, "My name is Jonathan Brown." And man, he just started giving his testimony. And you know, he was struggling through it. He could see he was getting aggravated and he was mad. But man, he was killing it. He was killing it. You could have heard a pin drop on that hill with all those men, right? All those men, and one guy went over there and put his arms around him. Another guy said, "Man, we got you." I mean, that's what it's about, right?
And read the text while we were here this morning.
Oh, yeah.
The text,
Tyler sent a text this morning. He says, "Man, I wish every man was there last night to see Jonathan. I can't get him off my mind." So, I mean, look, say what you want to. There's some walls being broken, right? There's some stuff happening, and that's what I keep telling everybody is, what if nobody would have showed up on the 7th day? Mm-hmm. Right? You'd have missed it. When the walls finally came down, you'd have missed it if you didn't show up, right? Because they were coming down, you know. But if you don't see it out, right? If you don't see it through the process, you have to be a part of the process.
You know, we give these all things new ministry does it, and trust the process. That's what it says, and I keep saying I'm going to write a little devotional book about the different ways to trust the process, but I like that it's kind of vague, because what the process you're going through right now, you got to trust God, but your process is going to look different for me. It's going to look different for Damien, for what he's going through in his life. So,
but yeah, it's I've had a lot of good people. I've had a lot of strong people behind me in my life, man. And if it wasn't for, you know, all the things, right? It wasn't for my dad being who he was, and I think he's the greatest daddy that ever walked on earth, right? And if it wasn't for him being hard and teaching me how to work and what work ethic looks like, you know, I wouldn't be here, right? I wouldn't be the dude I am right now. And if it wasn't for my wife showing me grace and love and helping me, reaching down and pulling me out of the ditch, right? Picking me up. She did that for me. And I'm forever thankful. And my buddies, right? Never giving up, never saying no. And for God, man, just being who he was, being merciful and being him. And my kids, man, I'm so thankful for her. I got 2 daughters, Camden and Kendall, and I got a son, Dawson. And I am super thankful for what they've done for me and who they've become.
The Men's Alliance meets on Mondays
at 6:30
at Crossroads Baptist Church.
Right behind Crossroads Baptist Church. And look, if you want to come to that one, come on. And there's one close. If it's too far from you, they also have one in Byram. Dalton's, I can't remember Dalton's last name right now, but anyway, it's they're doing the same thing.
Is it at a church in Byram?
It's at a church in Byram. And I don't know what it is right off the top of my head, but they're doing the same deal. And look, I just say, if it's something anybody wants to do, we want everybody there. You know what I mean? And look, when we get too big, we'll start up something somewhere else, right?
That's right. And guy, I'm looking at the camera because, man, I'm telling you, I can give a testimony about this Men's Alliance. Unfortunately, I have Celebrate Recovery on Monday nights and can't go, but the times I have been, you could see why it works. But again, Men's Alliance, Celebrate Recovery, Better Man, whatever, it's all tools, because ultimately it's Jesus Christ, and that's what, but if that's the tool that you need to get you to where the truths of Jesus and the truths of the Bible, embrace it. But make no mistake about it, you can do Men's Alliance or Celebrate Recovery from now and 7 or AA or whatever other program is for 10 million years, but until you get your heart right with Jesus, it's not going to work. But this is a great tool, and I've seen it work. And I guess if somebody wanted to start a Men's Alliance, they just go and
just
look
go
up
on Men's Alliance, and you can. There's a deal on there to start your own tribe. And they'll.
I shared the link in the comments.
Okay,
to
good.
the main Facebook page.
Yep.
I think one of the things impressed you is they do vet you, and then I think if you're going to start this, they make you go through an apologetics class.
Yeah, after you get your call sign, there's a coin class, right? And then you get your coin, and then after that is a patch. And to be a part, to get your patch, you got to go through a pretty rigorous deal, right?
Because they don't want somebody just.
Look, they want you to be able to defend your faith, right? Other than, well, I believe Jesus. I love him. That's what it is. And look, that's true, right? But they, look, they're the real deal. Those guys are good. And look, Dane Ferguson is our media guy, and he is killing it. We have a Facebook page on, for our tribe is called the Dog Soldier Tribe. And where that name came from was the dog soldier threw a spear in the ground and tied themselves to it, and they lived or died right there in battle. So that's where that name came from, is we're claiming this as our own, right? And look, Dane is our media chief. We have chiefs for everything. We delegate a lot of stuff. And he's got it on his MA Dog Soldier Tribe on Facebook, and he posts it. He does a big write-up about what was said that night and pictures from it. And look, man, he kills it. So it's a really good social media deal that I'm not good at all. But if you go to Men's Alliance, our tribe is the Dog Soldier Tribe, and there's a bunch of tribes. I think there's
I'm trying to figure out how to share it.
260, maybe more than that, tribes in the United States. So there's a lot of them. This is not just something we're doing right here in Pulahatchie, Mississippi. Most of them are up north.
And what I like about it is, like, even the building the fire, somebody does it different. It teaches them.
Yes, somebody signs up for the Devo every night. Somebody signs up for the build the fire, and somebody signs up for the workout.
Because even our guys at the gym, like I said, we're blessed. We got a guy that was a MMA guy, black belt, several things, but he doesn't do the workouts every week because they understand that the point is you're trying to teach leadership to guys, because it is easy to sit back in church and this guy's teaching, this guy makes the coffee,
That's
or,
right.
or you just show up and it's there and you don't really, people take that for granted.
And it's still hard right now, even though like we're in the middle of week 12 or whatever. It's still hard to get guys to sign up because look, nobody thinks they're worthy to say a Devo, or nobody thinks they're good at doing this. And it's easier to get them to sign up for the fire because they ain't got to do nothing but be there early, right? But they still have to be there, right? You have to commit. And then nobody wants to do the workout because they don't want the grumbling and griping, but it's going to come anyway. But and then the Devo's hard. It is hard. But what we find is guys that don't want that part, like Tyler Moore, gives a Devo on the power of the tongue the same night as Jonathan gets up and gives his Devo.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? So you find out that all this stuff is orchestrated, and it's anointed.
Before we have to go, give us a 2 or 3 testimonies about things that have happened on Monday night, and they're sweating and
Yeah, man. Well, that's the big one. And then of course, look, we got Scott Huffman. He passed a couple of weeks ago, and he came on Monday night the week before he died.
oh wow,
And nobody ever talks their first night, but if you know Scott, he didn't mind. But he says, you know what, guys, you know what my favorite verse is what we just talked about. Can, but I can't. But what is that?
In Romans 7.
Romans 7. I don't know. I'm reading pages with. But he said that's my favorite verse. And me and Scott used to teach Sunday school together, and I've heard him say that a million times. So that's real stuff, right? And if everybody knows Scott, I mean, he was a very good man and a very good father.
This Men's Alliance would have been his thing.
Oh,
too,
100%.
'cause he was all in the.
Oh, 100%.
And I know one night y'all had somebody show up, and you thought this guy invited them, and he thought you invited him.
Yeah,
He just showed up
and
out
he
of nowhere.
showed up out of nowhere, and actually the guy that invited him didn't show up, but he said, well, I'm going to leave. I'm like, no, you're going to stay here. And Cameron, being what he's does, is the guy said, look, I'm kind of going through this stuff. And Cameron just stood up and called him out and said, look, I've been telling everybody from day one, if you got a problem, we're going to pray for you. So we're going to do it now. And calls this guy in the middle of the thing that kind of calls him out, but look, stands on what he believes in. And we prayed over this dude, and he's now an active member. You know what I mean? He comes and you just see. Look, I don't know that it's the answer for everything, but it's something.
That's bringing me. Well, I know we do a Bible study in Pelahatchie on Tuesday afternoon, and there was a guy there, and after we got talking about how, but Walter Hudson met him at the Men's Alliance. The guy was struggling. He said, well, come to Bible study with me. And then I'm running to Brett Denson.
Brett, man. Brett is the dude's on point. Brett has a way with words. He is the softest spoken man that I've ever been around of my life. He has a way of telling you how much Jesus loves you, and you just melt.
He's solid too.
He's
I mean,
solid.
he's just like this right here, just steadfast.
Sure is.
I think it's cool how God is bringing all men together from different churches and different things, and just to help each other and to help go back and help your church and help your.
Look, they don't know it, but they're bringing me out of, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm just the quote unquote leader, but I'm not leading anything. I'm just being obedient. And I told my wife last night, I said, I'm super thankful to be a part of this group because it never fails to produce. Never fails to produce. And look, let's be honest. It ain't the group. It's just dudes being honest and real. Kind of like what we were going back to saying earlier, Damon, was about being real and being authentic, man. And just look, you wonder why that I heard a podcast a couple weeks ago. Wonder why so many people listen to Joe Rogan. That's why. Just he don't skate around.
He's
Nothing.
real.
He's real.
And even if he disagrees with you, or if he believes or he doesn't believe you, at least you know.
He's going to address it, right? So I mean, look, that's what we're after, right? And I mean, I don't think you can go wrong with that.
That's right.
We had Lindsay Culver that shared last night, and she's, man, what a powerful testimony. But she was very vulnerable and talking about all these things she did and all. But at one point, she said something about, if you say you know Jesus, you need to model him because it's really confusing to the world. She talked about she knew Christians and she knew people that claimed, but she didn't see it. So she's trying to fill these voids, and I won't go into all her that's her testimony. But
That's right.
She tried to fill these voids in her life with all these, you name it,
Yeah.
literally, you name it, and it left her empty. But and she does a good job of modeling. I mean, she oozes Jesus. If you're around Lindsay Culfer, so we thank you, Lindsay, for sharing.
And I think that's why, like, with Mexico, I feel so drawn to that place and to Hector and what he's got going on is because it's real, right? I mean, it's gnarly. The smells are real, right? The sights are real. The poverty is real. And look, man, there's no junk in between you and God. And you know what I mean? Brett and I was talking about this morning. Is we fill ourselves up with so much stuff, and sometimes the stuff gets in between us, and I don't know. You're kind of envious in a way of and man, and ain't that the crazy part? Like that place, I love Hector. I feel a connection with that guy. Like to not know him and to meet him and to feel that way about somebody is foreign to me because I feel like he is a part of my family. You know what I mean? Like I love that dude.
Well, you're the favorite child because look, Hector, he is so bad with names. But and it's been, I know you took a little vacation from going there, but he confused me one day. He would say my brother from a different mother. And but one time he asked me, he says the guy, my brother, the trailer man, and I'm thinking somebody that lived in a trailer, maybe they lived. He kept saying the trailer man, and finally when he said you know my brother from different mother, I said fine. I think we FaceTimed.
Yeah,
but I mean I have carried. One day I write everything in journals and notebooks, but the problem is I forget where I put them or I lose them. But I have, at some point, if I can ever find it, I got a list of everybody that's ever gone with me, and we carried hundreds. But you're the one that he'll ask for by name, our brother from a different mother. So
well, I'm telling you, man, when I see him, and as you can see, I get emotional anyway. But when I see him, I'm overwhelmed with emotion. It's like I'm finding the guy that I had, I've lost a long time ago, and he makes you feel so comfortable. But look, at the same time, I can see his struggle. Right? It would seem as he's got it all figured out, but you can see the dude inside of him that is struggling, right? Yeah, I mean, he goes through the same stuff, and we forget about him because he's way over there, but he's a dude that struggles with trying to keep the faith, right?
I have, and people will meet Hector and they say, I want what he's got. And I'm like, well, live in a hammock for 5 years. I mean, they see how it is now, but they don't, or deal with the cartel on a daily basis. That's where they come in and take over your, so his faith has been forged by fire. But when you said it's real, I think that's what makes it so good, because literally there, like he may call you over here and say, hey, we need to pray for this brother. He's sick or whatever. But here our first response would be take him to the doctor. Well, there ain't no doctor to take them to. There's nowhere. So you literally, or if you don't have food, you would scrounge in our car and find some change and run the crystals. Well, there, you got to believe, because there is no money, there is no food coming, and you got to trust God that he's going to provide.
I remember one day I asked that dude, I'm like, are you Baptist? Are you Methodist? Are you like, what are you? And he couldn't understand what I was talking about. And I was trying to figure out what he was, you know what I mean? Like, and he's like, I don't know what you're at. I'm like, well, and I think I had to get you to come over, and he's like, I'm Christian. What are you doing? Like, I'm Christian too. You know what I mean? Like, I think
it was so funny, because I'm like, are you Baptist? I just assumed, and anyway, he's like, yes, I've been baptized in the river. And I'm like, no. And he's like, I'm Christian. He just couldn't understand.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I learned a lesson, and I'm very anal about stuff, but we were giving out packets, and we had these kids. I think you may have been with us at Alacronis, and we had all these little packets of toys and stuff to give the kids, and you could just see the line going around. And I'm like, we're going to run out. So I'm like, we're going to run out. Let's go, send somebody to the store. Maybe we can get there in time. And he's like, brother, we have to stop and pray. And I'm like, are you stupid? Literally, that's how Carlo, because I'm like,
we're running.
I'm counting right here. There's 50 bags. There's 100. I'm counting. I know. I just took the time. What are you, stupid? What do you mean pray? And I'm like, Hector, maybe we can. He's like, no, brother, we have to pray. And I'm like, and you talking about how grace, because God should have struck me with lightning.
I know.
And I'm like, all right, God, make these bags. I'm like, pray what? And he said, pray that God multiply the bags. I'm like, are you stupid? But I remember us praying, and then the last kid that walked up was the last bag we had. But like you said earlier, when you went to your road and you said that you'd done all this stuff and then you hadn't even prayed about it. I'm saying I want to do all this stuff for God. It's like guys like, hey, why don't you talk to me about this? And
man, I remember that day like it was yesterday, and I just told Cameron, I said, I feel like an idiot, but I'm good at not trying to ask for help from nobody, right? And I think that's just a man thing. I don't know. I got to get that out of my brain, right? But I want to fix it myself. That's some of the deal with the cross, right? And some of the deal with him taking my whipping, right? Him taking my nails. And I had to really come across that. I finally had to understand what it meant to understand what grace is. And golly, I'm just wanting to tell every dude that I come across, if you can ever figure out what grace really is, it'll change your life. It'll change your life. I'm telling my son, all these things are important, but let me tell you what's the most important. The most important is that you love Jesus and that you know that he loves you. That's step one, right? To becoming a man. And it's just I don't know, man.
I know David Jeremiah wrote a book about grace, and there's a thing called hyper grace where people abuse, but I'll do what I want to, God forgive. But I remember in the preface of his book, I can't remember what the name of his book was, but he said, if you truly understand grace, it does the opposite. You want to work more and do more, knowing that you can't earn it. But it's like, if you jumped on a grenade for me, I'd build a statue of you and I name my kids after you and all that. So it's understanding what he did for you. He says it actually motivates us more. And that's been my experience.
Yeah, dude. It comes off that whole Romans 7 thing, right? Is Cameron did this the other week. He said, I wish I could, but I can't, and I want to be, and I don't, and stuff like that. And he said, turn the page, because Romans 8:1 said there's no
condemnation. That's right.
And Brett stands on that verse, right?
No condemnation.
There's no condemnation. And man, like, if dudes could wrap their brain around that alone could change the world, right?
Because I do think we all deal with shame and guilt. I think especially as a man, because you want to be all that you are supposed to be for your family, and when you don't, you do have that spirit of condemnation. So.
And my deal is and I forgot to say this earlier, but I want to get to all these men, right? And I want them to get to their sons. Not that their daughters aren't important, because our daughters are super important. But look, what if we did our job as men and we told our sons, this is how you're supposed to be? If I'm doing my job with my son, then you don't have to worry about your daughter, because he's going to lead her. He's going to take her. He's going to protect her, and he's going to show her, where it's going to be. And look, we've trained our daughters to know what's right and what's real. And look, that works then, right? But if we're not teaching our sons, this is generational stuff that we're talking about,
I think sometimes I'm old enough to I remember when Promise Keepers was out, and then it kind of got blasted. It was, it's all about men and it's chauvinist and all. But if any woman would have went to a Promise Keepers thing, they would beg their husbands, because what they were teaching you. I remember going to one and they said, when you go back home, your wife shouldn't outwork you in your home.
Yeah.
you should outwork your wife because, you know, and they were teaching you to honor your wife and to serve. And, you know, so I know when we talk about building fires and tribal and all this men stuff, but it's really for the wives and daughters because when you're the man you're supposed to be.
Yeah, my wife has carried my butt through a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? She is a very strong woman, and thankful that she is who she is. Misty Edwards is a very, very, very wonderful person, and without that, my job would be super hard. Mm-hmm. But she always picks up my slack, right? And my deal is, I don't want her to take. She shouldn't have to, right? Mm-hmm. And if I can get that through my thick head, right, and if I can get that through my son's head, we're talking about generational change here. We're talking about stuff that we're all really mad about the way this world's going, but nobody's willing to do the hard stuff. Look, what Joby said the other day, everybody wants to win championship, but nobody wants to be sore.
That's right.
Right? You got to be sore. You know, you got to go through the weight room. You got to do the hard things to get the good stuff, right? So we got to go through the.
And we can look in our culture and see that you know, we as men have not done the job we're supposed to have done.
We're lazy. We're laziness. Laziness is laziness breeds laziness. Laziness, you fall into sleep and you don't wake up. Mm-hmm. I can attest to that.
Well, Damien, have you got anything you want to add to this or comment on? Or
yeah, I'll say, man, it's been a really, really good conversation, man. And I wish I'd have knew beforehand that you were involved in all that other stuff, man. I'd have put that in the description. All I could find out about you, Brian, was that you had trailers, son.
Yeah, man.
Huh?
Yeah.
Trailer man. I'm like Hector, son. I'm like, you know, the trailer guy.
Yeah, I know, dude. That's okay. It's all good.
I'll tell you what I want to see. I want to see Aubrey do some squat thrusts, son.
Yeah.
Last Friday, I flipped my first tractor tire.
Hey, man.
There you go.
So you made it last Friday.
Yeah.
Well, how about
Otherwise,
that?
I wouldn't be flipping no tractor tires.
That's right. That's exactly right.
The guys love that. That's a blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been
I love it.
material. And the reason one thing, they're incarcerated, so they don't have access to computers. But another thing, in the jail administration world, they don't like nicknames and aliases.
Yeah, right.
And I know y'all, the Men's Alliance, that's a big, and I understand why they do that. But we're all about the Men's Alliance and want to promote it. Want to promote y'all's too. Tell us real quick about Jackknife Trailer Repair.
So we're just we sell parts and pieces of trailers. We try to keep everything there. We do a lot of sales. Not a lot of sales, more service than anything. So it's I bought it 10 or 15 years ago from Tanya. She works there. She's the guru of the trailer world. I'm thankful for people that work there. I've got a lot of really good people that work there and that are good people to do and good people to help people. So
I tell people, I remember when Brian he was teaching school and coaching. This shows you how ignorant I am. I'm like you said, I'm going to sell trailer parts. I'm like, man, you're going to starve to death. But I hadn't know, Damon. I just thought you got a trailer and bought it and never did maintain it or wheel bearings and all that.
well, we're thankful for people like that. Right? We like for people to let people borrow your trailer. Yeah, let your buddy borrow the trailer.
We were talking about our trailers that we have, and it's so funny. Bobby Jenkins was talking about Norman was wanting to let somebody borrow his trailer, and Brian said, do it because that's what keeps me in business. When people borrow your trailers, that's what keeps me in business.
Let your buddy use your trailer. That's what keeps me in business. That's
so
right.
Jackknife Trailer Repair, and it's on Richland, old Highway 49. Again, if you have a trailer, man, support a business. It's going to support ministries and support other people. Matter of fact, one of the coolest things, talking about COVID happened right after. We've not done another one, but we did a church service at your business, and we went all around that neighborhood and brought in the Hispanic church from Hazelhurst. And man, brought in Brother Jesus and them. It was cool. There's and it stormed. We were going to do it outside and cook burgers, and it stormed, so we had to move it inside. And man, we had a little revival that
Yeah,
night.
man,
broke out.
it was a lot of hallelujahs going on. That's about the only word I understood. But tell you a quick little COVID story during that thing, because as you can tell, I was so anti-world then, and everybody was saying, well, you had to have a piece of paper saying you could come to work. And I thought that was the dumbest thing I'd ever heard of in my life. So all my guys were like, are we going to work? I'm like, yeah, we got to keep the doors open, man. We got to make, we got to live. So we're working, and I don't think we're supposed to be working, and this dude come in, and I'm all amped up, antsy about somebody shutting me down or telling me what I am and ain't going to do. And anyway, this dude come in, and he had a badge, right? And he had a notebook or whatever, and he's on the phone. And he's standing at the door, and he's like, yeah, I'm here now. And I immediately thinking, this fool's coming to shut me down. You know what I mean? So I immediately jump into DEFCON 4, right? I go in, Tanya and them are in the break room. I'm giving her my keys and my wallet. I give her my phone and say, call my wife and tell her I'm in jail. And I go out there to fight this
Call my
dude.
wife and tell I'm in jail.
I go out there to fight this dude, and I am visualizing him tasing me in the parking lot, okay? Because it's fixing to go there, because I think he's there to shut me
You
down.
already amped up.
Yeah, I'm so amped up. And I'm like, I walk out there and said, something I can help you with? And he said, yeah, I need bearings for this little trailer I got. Man, where? I'm like, I'm listening to this world's got me all jacked up. And I'm like, yeah, right here. So, I mean, it was so dumb, right? It was so dumb. But
Isn't it funny? We build ourselves up sometimes for a confrontation.
I was
Brian
ready.
says this, I'll say this.
I was
I'll
ready
tell him
to
this,
fight
and
that dude right there. Yeah, I was thinking he's finna have to cuff me.
He's a brother bear.
It was funny.
Well, Damien, we talked about that.
You were like, there's something I can help you with. He's like, yeah, actually there is. These bears.
Yeah, man, I was ready to go.
Yeah,
so
that's
dumb.
crazy.
Well, Damien, we talked about jackknife trailer repair. Talk about your business.
I just have Power Digital Media out here in Florida, in Florida, Mississippi. If you guys have any type of audio, video, digital creation, anything that you need like that, give me a call. Leave it in the comments, and I will get back to you.
And look,
Amen.
I say this every Damien is professional and has a spirit of excellence, and you know what it's like starting a business.
Yeah.
I know it's been tough on Damien trying to get this thing going, and I wish I knew more people to. I tell
Y'all ready to play the Brad Hancock promotion or what?
It's funny when we started. The Lord put this on my heart. I really want to do this, and my son asked me, "Well, how do we watch it?" I said, "I don't know."
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, don't you think you should know?" So now
You
we
sound like
know it's on Spotify and YouTube and all these different things. So
We're on YouTube, Facebook, Kick, Twitch, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Boomplay. There's like 7 more. I don't even know where they're all at.
so, but
Podbean.
and I'm really proud. And Damien, thank you because we couldn't do it without you. But I'm really proud. And even last night I had a lady that came by and said, "Hey, I watched your podcast or listened or however they do it." And then it's grown a little bit when people call and say, "Hey, I'm trying to find this on iHeart and it's not uploaded yet." And I'm like, "Well, just give us time. We're gonna take care of it," or whatever the case is.
Just like Tina just said, share this video as well. Absolutely, you guys share this video as well. Like, share, subscribe, follow.
Yeah.
Whichever platform you're on right now as you're watching this, do us a favor. Hit that like button. Help us get to more people. If you think this is a good conversation, if you think that people need to hear more conversations like these, the one way that you can help us is just by hitting that share button, hitting that subscribe button, and help us get out to more.
And like it. And so.
And look, nobody ever gives you enough props or Aubrey enough props for what y'all do for the kingdom. But
Man, Lord,
these two
have mercy.
dudes are workers.
Well, we
And
appreciate
you say that, but I mean, you've touched. So y'all have done.
So many people.
We're surrounded by a lot of great people. I can tell you that. And you're one of our favorites, and I can tell story after story. Damien, I won't get into details, but one of our biggest supporters and a dear friend and a ministry partner. People think I'm Kim, but the way I got connected with them is Brian threatened to whoop them in a fight. That's a whole different
That's a whole
story.
different story. Yeah.
Anyway, so
God
that,
uses everything.
that's how God uses all things. But you're
And I was going to do it in the name of Jesus too.
and we're grateful for our trailers, man. Our Burgers and Blessings trailer, and then we got a Mexico trailer now, and Hector's got some trailers, and they've been a huge blessing, and so thank you for that. All right, Damon, are we done?
I think we got it wrapped up, man.
Well,
You guys are happy with it?
yeah. Well, Coach Edwards, will
Play the
you?
video?
You want to play it?
Yeah, play it.
Hey, man, we'll play it.
Video, then we gonna ask you.
Hold
to
on
play
a
us
second,
out.
you guys. Hold on a second. Aubrey wants to play the video. I was just joking because I thought for sure
Let it rip.
y'all
Let it
were.
rip.
Hey, the backstory on this is we are going to have a fundraising dinner on September the 11th. That should be an easy day to remember. So we asked Damien to come in and make some video testimonies, and our friend Brad, which we love Brad. He's
Well, I'm glad you said just now that it was September 11th because I have told everybody on the face of the planet that it was September the 16th. Huh?
no, there's something else going on that day.
Amen. Hey,
Night of Hope
amen.
is
Night of Hope is September 13th.
Yeah.
The Recovery Fest. in
the
Brandon.
Night of Hope Recovery
What
Fest.
day is it actually?
The fundraiser is September 11th. The Recovery Fest Ministries Fair is September the 13th.
They get it
13th?
all done.
Okay, because I thought it was the 16th, and I promise you I have told everybody it was the 16th.
Anyway, we had all these people doing testimonies, and Brad's, man, we've been ministering with Brad for a long time. Does an awesome job at Gateway. I remember the first time I met him, he was all tatted up. I'm like, who is this dude? And he's been such a blessing to us. And I tell everybody that, man, Brad's got, Damon, you hear a lot of preaching. That brother he's an anointed proclaimer of the gospel.
He is, man. He knows how to bring in humor just at the right time, and he's really, really good.
We
man.
asked him to be part of this fundraising testimony video, and I think he went to the extreme. So, Damien, you want?
Yeah. Well, this is just one that we did as a spoof. This was just to mess with y'all today. me and Brad literally conspired to make this one for us to mess with you
Well,
guys
let's see
today.
We love you, Brad.
Ladies and gentlemen, Brad Hancock.
My name is Brad Hancock. Now, I'm not one much for charismatic and Baptist, but let
Yeah,
me tell
he
you
don't
something.
come
Aubrey
as
Pridge is my favorite charismatic, and Scott Walters is my favorite Southern Baptist. And they need money. You need to give them money right
Well,
now.
hear 'em,
I mean, right now. I mean, I'm talking about addicts are coming like the shores of Normandy needing help, and they need your support. So what are you going to do? I tell you guys, what you're going to do is you're going to break out that phone and you're fixing to send them some money. The Lord is watching. Remember that.
So that's Brad Hancock. I'm sorry I had to switch it to the other thing so that it would play through the speakers.
Oh, well, that's fine. I couldn't hear him. I was just hoping everybody else could hear
He
him.
said, I'm his
Oh, yeah, they could hear him.
charismatic. You're his favorite Baptist.
Yeah, you're his favorite Baptist.
And you're our favorite. I don't know what Brad was, Reformed or Presbyterian or.
Ain't no way he's a Methodist.
Yeah, the opposite. You're our favorite opposite of
He's our
Methodist.
favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Christian.
Yeah, we all need some more Hector,
I
don't
know
we?
we did.
Amen.
Well, Damien, we're gonna get Coach Edwards to close us out in prayer.
Sounds good, man.
Father God, we just come to you right now, Father. Father, I'm just thankful for everything that you've blessed us with, Father. I thank you for the ability to be here, Father. I thank you for Scott and Aubrey and for Damon, what they have going on here, Father God. I just pray that you just anoint their ministries, Father, just so you can touch as many people as you can, Father. I pray for the sons and daughters and the men that are coming up, Father God. I just pray that we just are able to do what we're supposed to do and keep you first, Father. And all this in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
God bless y'all. We'll see y'all
thank you.
next week. Rodney Williams will be here.
Rodney Williams.
Rodney Williams.
You guys, until we see y'all next time, y'all stay prayed up.
holy is my God. Mighty power, love unshot. Heart beats pure in his name. Fire burns.